certain that I was an Indian princess in a former life. Couldn't be a coincidence that I'd spent 10 years working for an Indian-owned manufacturer. I became like family with the owner Bridge. Sometimes, in fact, when he would ask me a question, I would answer in Hindi, acha, acha, meaning yes, got it, good, I understand. Work was great, but my love life was a mess. My friends were getting married and having their first children, so when my New York boyfriend proposed, I said yes. 21 days before our wedding, I came home to an empty house. He wasn't the right guy, and I knew that, but it hurt really bad. I spent the next few years frolicking through entanglements with all of the wrong guys. When I wasn't working, I was traveling the world. Life was fun, but underneath my maternal voice was screaming so loud, I could barely hear myself think. In 1997, my dreams came true when our closest family friends invited me and my mother to join them on a trip to India. When I told Bridge I was going, he planned our trip down to the very last detail with the help of his father, who was a senior director of the Department of Agriculture. The 20-hour flight to New Delhi was grueling, but my mind raced. I wanted to come back from India with a deeper spiritual understanding of the direction of my life and with some clarity about where my future was headed. We arrived in New Delhi close to midnight. There was a certain unorganized chaos about the airport. The people, the cars, the noise. The air was thick and smoky. It was raw, and I loved it. We found our driver, and off we went to our hotel in New Delhi. I awoke excited about the road trip to Agra, dressed quickly, and then headed to the lobby to wait for my mom and friends. An old man with a long white beard slowly walked down the hotel corridor. He was 80-ish and looked frail. He wore a crisp white cotton tunic. His worn brown leather sandals matched the color of his wrinkled skin. This was so India. He just had to be a guru. As he approached, it was clear that he was headed toward me. He sat beside me and reached for my right hand. "May I?" he asked. He wanted to read my palm. The very gentle man in a calming voice said, "Dear, you know him already." I was taken back and asked, Who? Who do I know? With a slight smile and a soft pat on the top of my hand, he said, "The man that you will marry." He stood, made a prayer-like gesture, and walked off. In a voice that I couldn't seem to scream louder than a whisper, I said, "Wait, who?" He disappeared around the corner. I sat there stunned. How could he possibly know the answer to a question that I hadn't asked, but I had wanted to? India was a magical place. We met D.V. Sharma at his office in Agra. D.V. worked under Bridge's father at the Department of Agriculture. He was in his 30s and seemed more like an Indian movie star than a guide. Internally, I joked to myself, maybe he was my prince in a former life, in which case I would know him as the guru said I did. Before heading off to the Taj Mahal, D.V. shared his knowledge of Indian architecture. I was captivated by his enthusiasm. I felt flirty, and I hadn't felt like that in a long time. Along the way, we stopped at several credential checks, and then were dropped off right in front of the Taj Mahal. I felt special and privileged. D.V. walked us through rooms that were not open to the public and explained the story of the Taj Mahal. I remembered as a young student reading that Shah Jahan loved his third wife so much that when she died giving birth to their 14th child, he built the Taj Mahal as a mausoleum in her memory. D.V. seemed impressed by my knowledge. He grabbed my hand and said, "Yes, yes, the princess. Please come with me." He led us out to a large terrace pointed and said, "Look across the river at the palace. This is where Shah Jahan lived with his eldest daughter, Jahanara." He still had my hand, looked in my eyes, and said, "She was a princess just like you." My heart raced like a schoolgirl's first crush. "Well, when in Rome," I said. I spent the next several days with Devi. He made me feel like a princess. It had been so long since I had allowed myself to feel that way. We walked through the local craft markets. Devi would hurry me along when I stayed too long in the cashmere stalls and then seemed to scold the merchant in his native Hindi. "I will take you to the best places for cashmere. The quality is not good here," he would say. The smell of sandalwood throughout the outdoor market was intoxicating, sexy, and exotic. During a stop at a local temple, he took me aside and said, "My Princess Christine, I am captivated by you. I can't think to live without you." Shyly, I smiled back. No one had ever told me I captivated them. On our last night in Agra after dinner, Devi took my hand and led me outside to the garden. It had been such an amazing few days, and I felt sad we would be leaving. Devi did most of the talking, and I found myself getting swept up in his plans for the future. "We will get married, and we will live in India and America. You will be my princess, and you will have many children." "Yes," I replied softly, "many children." My heart raced with the seriousness of it all. The following morning, Devi leaned into the car, kissed my cheek, and then softly ran his hand down the side of my face. "My princess, I will see you in America," he said. As we drove off, reality set in. Could I do this? Could I live in India? What about my family and my friends? What about my job? I did have friends that lived in both New York and Florida, and somehow they managed. And maybe I wouldn't need to work, especially since I'd be having many children. While caught in thought, my mom put her hand on top of mine and said, "Oh, dear Chrissy, what have you gotten yourself into?" We spent the next several weeks traveling through Rajasthan. India was everything I had imagined it would be. While I would often think about what the guru said, I had an inner peace with it all. Devi had helped me rediscover a place deep inside that I thought was gone forever, a sense of worthiness, an inner princess that could be loved, cherished, and captivating. As he promised, Devi did come and visit me in the United States. He brought me beautiful cashmere shawls, gold jewelry, and sandalwood, and a traditional wedding skirt and shawl. He didn't actually propose to me, but he said, "This, my Princess Christine, is what you will wear when we marry someday." The longer I was home, the more I realized that Devi wasn't my prince or the man the guru told me about. He was more than that. He unleashed my flirty girl that I thought was gone forever and prepared me to meet the right guy, my prince. I showed Devi around Southern California for 2 weeks, and we had a blast. He still referred to me as his princess, and I was good with that. Several months after returning from India, I left Bridges Company and started my own business designing little black dresses. And the guru was right. I did know the man that I would marry. I must have passed him 100 times in the halls when I worked for Bridge. My prince was right there all along, but it took a trip to India to bring it all together. In 2000, we married, and shortly thereafter, our 2 beautiful baby boys were born. While I never spoke to Devi again, he insisted that I keep the wedding skirt. I opened up the back, and I use it every year as a beautiful embellishment around the base of our family Christmas tree. This time of year, I'm reminded of my connection to India and that my inner princess is alive and well.